Hey guys, if you are in the market for a mini jib, you may want to take a look at this one here. This is DigiSlider's motorized carbon fiber mini jib. And that's it, it's motorized, it's very unique. Now you don't have to use the motor, but when you want to, it's very cool. So we're gonna run through some of the pieces that we have here on the table, and then later we're gonna go through kind of the setup, which is very simple. In any case, this is the bag that you're gonna get, a really, really nice bag. I already have the jib out of the bag. So it's two pieces over here. You've got the main jib piece right over here. You have the counterbalance arm where you would add the weight. This section here is carbon fiber, this all aluminum, so very sturdy build. And as you can see here, we have a quick release plate up at the top. Now this one came with this, so you can add that. And then on the bottom here is where you would add your quick release plate. And I have a Manfrotto quick release plate here now because I put that on my tripod. But taking a look at it, this is the jib right here. Very easy to open up. You just loosen up these clamps similar to like a monopod or some tripod legs, and you just telescope it just like that. And then on the opposite end, you would attach your counterbalance arm. And then you just tighten up those clamps when you're not using it. So very quick to set up, very lightweight. These carbon tubes here are a lot larger than most of the other mini jibs out on the market. So they're very big. I think these are about, let me see, 1.3 inches or so. So a lot larger than the other jibs out there. So really nice. We're gonna take a look at some of these pieces. They sent over a variety of different cables, shutter cables for different cameras. So here we have Canon, we have Sony, Nikon, another Nikon type adapter, and another adapter here which looks like for Canon as well. This is an extension cord which runs from the controller to the camera in case your controller is positioned further away from the camera. And they packaged this bundle here with the Dynamic Perception MX3 controller. This is a really, really powerful controller. Not only can you hook up 3 different motors, you can also program each motor independently, so they all have their own settings. You can even do some real-time movements or continuous video movements, so the motor will just continue to spin. Or you can do a shoot, move, shoot, where the motor will move a predetermined amount or length, distance, and then stop for a predetermined amount of time, and then continue, and then stop and continue. And that's great for when you're working with long exposures, or you're dragging the shutter on your camera and you don't want the either slider or jib to be moving during those times. So it will move, your camera will fire. As soon as your camera is done, then it will move again, and then your camera will fire again. So this right here can be used in conjunction with these types of shutter remote cables and hook up to your camera, and this will fire your camera's shutter, as well as hook up to the motor and control the movement of this jib. So really, really powerful controller from Dynamic Perception. It's used on a lot of other items, but here they bundled it with this carbon fiber jib. They've also packaged this little battery pack. So this little battery pack will just connect right into this MX3 controller. And right now this is just being powered by 8 AA batteries. Now the MX3 controller can take any type of battery up to 24 volts. So if you wanted to modify your own D-Tap V-mount battery, you could do that, plug it right into the MX3 and it will work. Once the power is plugged into the MX3, it will take the power from your source and then use that power to power up the motors. So it'll control all of that as well. So again, very powerful from Dynamic Perception. This is the motor and the belt that connects to the side of this jib. Now this wheel here, this gear, I don't know if you can see this. This gear right over here, I mounted to this jib. Typically it's not on there, so if you just wanted to buy the jib and use it as a normal carbon fiber jib, you could do that. But you can also attach the gear on here so that you can add the motor later. Now, when the motor is not attached to the jib, it just works like a normal jib. And then to attach the motor is very simple. You have one thumb screw here. The belt goes around this gear, and then you just screw on the thumb knob, make sure it's tight, and that's pretty much how you add the motor right to the jib. And from this point on, with a controller, you can either do real-time movements where the jib is just continuously moving in a fluid motion, or you could program it again to do kind of time-lapse mode, shoot, move, shoot mode. A lot of stuff you could do once you have this option with the motor, and it's very, very cool. So let me take this off for now and get this whole kit set up on a tripod so you can kind of see what it looks like when it's mounted on the actual tripod and it's set up as we would use it out in the field. All right, so we have the DigiSlider Motorized carbon fiber jib put together over here, and as you can see, I have the motor on here. Now, once the motor is on here, you can't move the jib by hand because the gear is keeping it in place, and it's going to be fully controlled through this controller here. And if I remove the motor, then I can just use the jib normally. So it just takes one screw and then the whole motor comes off very quick if you just want to operate it by hand. Now, typically with this controller and your camera on the other end, if you're going to do a time lapse, you can plug this very long extension cable here into our controller, and then on the opposite end we would take one of these types of shutter cables, shutter remote cables, to the type of camera that we're going to use, and then we would connect that to the camera and then back over to the controller here, and that would control the shutter on the camera if we're doing some sort of time lapse. But here I'm using like a Panasonic camera. The GX7 has built-in time-lapse or built-in intervalometer, so I could just use that one as well, and I don't have to have another cable going to the camera. But just to show you some basics here, now this controller is very complex. They do have a full tutorial on one of their websites. I can link to that, but I'm just going to show you some basic moves that you could do once you have a motorized jib. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to do a full-time movement. So we're going to go into manual move here. We're going to choose axis 1. And here I'm just going to do a very basic move. And that's moving it to the left. And you see that's moving in real time. Now we can adjust the speed if we wanted to. And then here I'll move it over to the right, or in this case down, and then I can also reduce the speed as well. That's your real-time movement. So for video you can use that technique, very smooth, so you're not operating it by hand. And then there is time-lapse mode on here. Now there's some advanced time-lapse modes on here, but I'm going to use the basic one. So all we have to do is toggle here, all right, so I'm not sure if you can hear that or even see this, but the motor is basically pulsing and it's moving a little bit every 0.3 seconds. So if we sit here long enough, you'll see that the camera position will move. Now, this is the fastest setting that I have on here. You can also set the distance between each time it activates the motor. I have very short distance here. We're just pulsing it faster, so the camera is moving. But if I wanted to slow this down, if we're doing a time lapse that we want the camera to sit longer, I would increase this time delay to, say, I'll do 2 seconds here. And I'm not sure if you could hear it in my lab mic, but there's a little buzz that happens every 2 seconds. And you'll notice that the camera is going to move every 2 seconds. And if I wanted to slow it down even more, I'll switch this to 4 seconds. And so that longer delay is going to take it, it'll be a lot longer to move from point A to point B, so we'll have a longer movement for our time lapse. But once again, if you're doing faster kind of time lapse, we just reduce the amount of seconds of delay between each time it activates the motor. And again, we're here at 0.3 seconds. So I'm just going to turn this off. All right, so that was just kind of a quick demonstration of what you could do. So you could do time lapse, you could do real-time movements. Again, once you have this motor on here, you could get other controllers as well. But this is an excellent controller if you guys are into time lapse. And this jib is really going to open up some creative movements that you couldn't do with just a basic slider. Now, I don't have this jib fully extended because I'm trying to get it into the camera frame here, as well as the balance arm on the back here. That's not fully extended. But a camera like this, the Panasonic G7, we just have a 5-pound weight over here. And it's not fully extended, but I could telescope that further, which is actually about 4 feet from the center point out to the end. So that's quite a lot of movement, especially if you're using a tall tripod, then you're gonna get really good heights out of this jib. Now, I'm gonna take this motor off here just to show you how smooth the actual jib is on its own without the motor. See how quick that was. And then you see we have it balanced here, but just one finger, very easy to move, very fluid, very smooth. Again, I don't have this fully telescoped, so this jib is actually fairly long, but everything just packs right up into this bag over here, so really nice and neat. I can even fit the MX3 controller in here, the motor, the battery power, some extra stuff. There's a lot of room in this bag outside of just fitting the carbon jib itself, so this is really all you need to do to go and do a time lapse, you know, as well as a tripod as well. Anyways, we're gonna take this out in the field. We're gonna see what we could do, see what kind of images we can capture. I'm not really a time-lapse kind of guy, but I'll do my best, and we'll put this to work, and then we'll show you what we have. So for more information about this stuff, check it out at the blog, cheesycam.com.